He woke up before the sun, like he always did. The old coffee machine hissed in the corner, filling the room with the smell of burnt beans and quiet comfort. Every morning was the same road, the same faces, the same tired smile he gave to strangers. His name was David. 56 years old. Divorced. 2 kids who called on birthdays and Christmas. He didn't blame them. Life just moved. He lived in a small town in the middle of nowhere, the kind of place where time didn't pass, it just repeated. Each day felt like the echo of the one before it. Every morning, David would drive down the same country road to work at the local hardware store. The road was quiet, endless fields stretching on both sides, golden and tired under the morning light. He liked that silence. It was honest. Sometimes he'd think about the man he used to be. The dreamer, the one who wanted to move to the city, to start something of his own, to be somebody. But dreams have a way of fading when life gets loud. At work, he'd greet customers, fix shelves, smile when someone said, "You're always here, man." And he was. Always there. Like part of the building itself. Lunch was the same table by the window, the same sandwich, the same silence. He'd watch cars pass by, families, couples, laughter trapped in rolled-up windows. It made him feel both warm and hollow at once. When the day ended, he'd take the long way home. Not because he had to, but because it gave him 10 extra minutes before the quiet of his apartment swallowed him again. He'd sit by the window, open his old notebook, and write small things, not stories, not poems, just thoughts. Little reminders that he was still here. Still thinking. Still hoping. That notebook was his only habit that felt alive. Every page a whisper to himself, "You made it through another day." Evenings were the hardest. The town would go quiet after 7. The store lights dimmed, the traffic faded, and the only sound left was the hum of his refrigerator. He used to like silence. But lately, it started to feel like the silence was watching him back. He'd pour himself a glass of whiskey. Just one. Not enough to forget, but enough to blur the edges of thought. He'd sit by that same window, notebook open, staring at a blank page for minutes that stretched into hours. Sometimes he'd write something small, a sentence, a word, or just a date. It didn't matter what he wrote. What mattered was that the pen still moved. He thought about his marriage, the fights that started small and ended with silence. The way she stopped looking at him like he was someone worth listening to. Maybe it wasn't her fault. Maybe it was just life, slowly grinding the shine off 2 people until they couldn't see each other anymore. Sometimes he'd play old music, songs that used to fill the car on long drives. He'd close his eyes, and for a few minutes, he wasn't 56, he wasn't alone, he was 25 again, laughing on the highway with the windows down. But the song would end. And the room would fall quiet again. Too quiet. On some nights, he'd walk through town, down the empty streets lit by flickering lamps. He'd pass the diner, the gas station, the old post office, all ghosts of busier days. He'd nod to the night guard at the parking lot, who always said the same thing, "See you tomorrow, Dave." And that small moment, that one simple phrase, it made him feel seen. One evening, as he walked back home, he saw something strange, a small dog sitting by the road, alone, staring into the distance. No collar. No sound. Just waiting. He stopped. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he sat down beside it. The dog didn't move. Didn't bark. Just breathed. They sat like that for a while, 2 souls caught in the same quiet, waiting for something neither could name. When he finally stood up, the dog followed him home. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't walk alone, the dog stayed. Not because he asked it to, but because it decided to. He didn't name it right away. He told himself it was just visiting, a stray that would leave once it got bored or found something better. But days passed. Then a week. And the dog was still there. It slept by the window. It followed him to work, waited by the door until he finished. Sometimes, when David turned around in the store, he'd catch customers smiling, pointing. "Your shadow's waiting for you," they'd joke. And he'd smile back. He hadn't realized how long it had been since someone made him smile. He started bringing an extra sandwich to lunch. Half for him, half for the dog. They'd sit outside, under the weak afternoon sun, sharing small bites in silence. The kind of silence that didn't hurt anymore. At home, the apartment felt different. Lighter. The dog would curl up on the couch, and David would talk, not big conversations, just simple words. "How was your day, buddy?" Or, "You think it'll rain tomorrow?" And somehow, those words made the air feel less empty. He finally gave it a name, Scout. Because it always walked a few steps ahead of him, as if leading the way. Days turned into weeks. The notebook on his desk began to fill again. Not with loneliness this time, but with small moments, little notes about Scout, about the mornings, about the smell of rain on the fields. Nothing grand. But real. Sometimes, he'd still wake up with that old heaviness in his chest. But now, there was a sound, paws on the floor, a soft bark, a reminder that he wasn't invisible. He'd take Scout for long walks down the country road. The same road he used to drive every day without noticing the world around him. Now, he saw everything. The way the sun hit the grass. The way the sky burned orange before fading to blue. The way the world kept moving, even when he had stopped. One afternoon, an old neighbor stopped him and said, "You look different, Dave. Happier." He laughed it off, but later that night, sitting on the couch with Scout asleep beside him, he realized the man was right. He was different. Not because life had changed, but because he had started to see it again. One morning, David woke up before dawn. The air felt different. Cooler, quieter, as if the world was holding its breath. Scout was sleeping at the foot of the bed, tail twitching in some quiet dream. For a while, David just sat there, watching the faint light crawl across the floorboards. He made coffee, opened the window, and listened to the sound of the countryside waking up. Birds. Wind through the fields. The low hum of life returning. It had been almost a year since the night he found Scout. A year since everything began to shift. He took out his old notebook, the one filled with fragments of his life. The pages were different now. No longer heavy with sadness. They carried warmth, gratitude, moments of quiet joy. He flipped to the first empty page and began to write. Not about loneliness. Not about the past. But about today. He wrote about the smell of the coffee. About Scout snoring. About the sunlight falling over the road. Small things, ordinary things, that suddenly felt sacred. When he finished, he tore out one page, folded it, and placed it in an envelope. No address. Just one word on the front, thanks. He didn't know who it was for. Maybe for life itself. Maybe for the second chances that come quietly, without fanfare. Later that day, he and Scout went for a drive. The same old country road, but it looked new. Different. Alive. As the sun began to set, he pulled over and stepped out. The fields stretched endlessly before him, golden, endless, forgiving. He stood there for a long time, the wind brushing against his face, Scout sitting at his feet. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was running from the quiet. He was part of it. He was home. He looked down at Scout, smiled, and whispered, "Let's keep going a little further." And together, they walked down the road. Toward the fading light.